Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another adventurous episode of the Kathmandu Coast to Coast podcast, course brought to you by Kathmandu and partnered with Team CP NZ. The podcast designed to get you from the west coast of the South Island all the way across to the east coast, and a not too near distant future, actually, to be fair there, Richard Greer, as we kick season 7, episode 5 underway. The countdown has surely begun.
The countdown's well and truly on. It's really nice to get beyond that Christmas holiday period and sort of actually you can see the coast to coast right on the horizon now, isn't it? It's in our sights. We've got something to shoot for, kind of the final dash to the training finish line, and then we're ready to get packed and ready to go, and we'll see you in Greymouth pretty much.
Well, as a teammate, I should ask you, how was the cake to running ratio over the festive season?
Actually, not too bad. I think I did okay there. Got out. We had our festive 500 challenge where we could take on for a Team CP NZ. Back yourself how many Ks or vertical meters you're going to do. And I pretty much did that in 2 trips up and down Mount Oxford across that festive season. So did okay and wasn't completely broken the second time round. So I'll take that as a big tick in the box.
Nice. Okay.
How was your
cake to boot?
100%. Well, you've got to fuel the adventure somehow, don't you? What about you? How was the Christmas cake to riding ratio?
It was actually more beverage to riding ratio, really, to be fair, and the beverage to riding ratio was quite good, actually. Probably on the wrong side of productive training, but weather was not the greatest, to be fair, but certainly got out, rode the bike a few times, got a couple of hills in. It wasn't too bad at all, really. Pretty relaxed. In fact, that was probably about the best thing of the whole thing, really, wasn't it? Just a bit of relaxation. We actually packed the caravan up, just dotted over the hill to Devotionals, and just did that caravan life in the park for a sort of a week and a bit, and very refreshing.
Good to have a change of scene, isn't it? Good to be able to get out and do a few different things, and it's nice when you've got a few bike rides and runs and bits and pieces to do when you don't have to squash it around work as well. Get up, get it done, and then sort of hang out for the day, doing whatever you're doing. So a really nice period of time to do that, and hopefully most of you out there listening to this have a bit of a chance to kind of just reset, refresh, and quite a nice time to maybe put some Ks on the clock if you're able to.
Yeah, I mean, we're as we record this, Rich, Sandra and I, we're about a week away from getting on the big bird to head over to training camp. We do take coast to coast pretty seriously nowadays, and do like to sort of log in a training camp right just before the main event. So off to the Tour Down Under in Adelaide for 12 or 13 days or something. So pretty excited about that, and pretty excited to get on the bike and just have some great weather to ride it in.
Well, that's going to be quite a difference from last year, because that was pretty much your only training last year. Whereas this year, I feel like you're coming into that with some Ks on the clock and an opportunity to really crack on. So I'm excited to see what you are able to do this time around, rather than just hoping like, heck, that might give you a little bit of form. Thanks very much, which it did okay last year. So, gee, look out.
Yeah, let's not get too carried away. Let's not get carried away. Let's not put expectations where we shouldn't have it. But once again, Toby, if you're listening, mate, just think about the job at hand you've got, eh?
Again, we're relying solely on Toby, aren't we? That's pretty much, we don't have much more than that.
And I like how we never even invite him to one of these chats either, Rich. Like we keep him over there. We don't let him out. We're just like, no, you know, your job is your job. That is it.
Yeah, just focus on paddling. Hopefully he's doing some actual training this time around. Word is that he's back in the boat, so that gives us a bit of hope. I'm sure he'll be giving it heaps.
Yeah, I've heard he's back in the boat, and he's also been doing a little bit of running. So look out on the first day for that big giraffe. He might surprise us. He might be more of a gazelle than a giraffe this year, maybe.
How good. That's awesome. So on the show today, we've got a pretty exciting show, actually. We're going to follow on from our episode 4 basically in 2 different senses. So we had Dr. Annabelle Merritt on last time, and she talked a lot about making it to the finish line. And there was a bit about nutrition she touched on around hypernatremia and salt intake and things. So we're going to talk to Conrad Goodhew, who works alongside Pure Sport Nutrition. Conrad's a dietitian, and we're going to talk to him about the sort of 3 key things on hydration, on carbohydrate intake, and salt intake. So actually seeing if we can get some actual numbers out of him and guidelines for different elements of the event and different people. So hopefully that should be useful for you to give you some guidelines, especially as we're dialing in those key race sessions and really practicing that nutrition. So make sure we've got that sorted for race day. So we're going to talk to Conrad, and we're going to kick off the show with Gemma McCaw. So Gemma is the teammate of Shaz Dagg, who we talked to last time, and have a chat to her about what coast to coast means to her and working with Kathmandu.
Yeah. So what are you thinking there? Are you we've got our race nutrition, so that's pretty important. We should have that dial by now, or is it, or can we be? Is it not too late to be actually trying to figure out what our nutrition is going to be?
Yeah, I think it's something that it's a constant sort of work on, and I think you want to do it in the time. Like basically, the job now is simulate race day. Show your body, show your gear, show mentally, nutrition, all those things. Practicing what it's actually going to do. So it's a good time to make tweaks. That whole adage about don't do anything new on race day, it's time to, if you're thinking about practicing stuff, is dialing in now. So yeah, I think it's a good opportunity to make sure that you play with that both in the duration and intensity of what you think you're going to see on race day. So yeah, hopefully there'll be some good takeaways from there for everybody.
So stick around, everybody, because we're going to go to Gemma first before we get to Conrad. But so stick around and think about what maybe you are doing now, and if you actually do have any issues. Really interesting, at a recent race, recent gravel race down in Waimate, we actually had some really random people get cramp throughout that race. People that came back and said, hey, I never get cramp, like it's just not a thing I get. And we had that from multiple people, and I guess there was a real nutrition. It was a reasonably warm day out there on the day, and just some difference in conditions and things obviously caught some people out, and how easy over either one very, very long day or 2 really hard days, how easy that can just change if you're not prepared for it.
That's right. And yeah, absolutely. So have a practice and make sure you've got that sorted. And that's one cramp. There's lots of different elements that can cause cramp. So if you've got your nutrition dialed, that decreases the chances of that happening just a little bit more. I think the other key thing I've been talking to people about a lot lately is, or just in these last few days as we get back on deck, is about it's not necessarily going to be perfect. Stuff's going to happen. Weather is still a challenge to get through the course. It's all over the show, really. There's some been really nice days up over the pass and down the river, but also there's some been pretty tough days as well. So that's to factor in, and then also just family life stuff happens as well. People may get sick, may get injured, etc. So basically, number one with Coast to Coast is turning up and making sure you've got the skills. So we've talked a lot on this podcast about bunch riding skills, and we've talked about a lot about kayaking and mountain running. So if you've got that stuff, that's the key thing. That's sort of the gateway. That's a prerequisite. And from now on in, it's about giving yourself the opportunity to stand on the start line, being as fit as you can, but making sure you don't overdo it and being fresh and ready to go to give yourself a chance. And the other key piece is having an actual plan of attack on how you're going to do it. And that's something that I've got a bunch of bookings at the moment. And that could be, I think that's probably the most valuable thing from here on in to race day, is actually knowing how you're going to do it. What's race day going to look like to you? How are you going to pace yourself? You don't need to dash off the start line at 100 million miles an hour with the front group. Just focus on your plan, focus on yourself and how you're going to actually race things. So if you're interested and if that's of use to you, jump on our website, Team CPNZ, jump into a book a call thing with me, and we can have half an hour and actually play with that. So that's obviously open to anyone, and that can be a really useful thing to dial that in. And we can talk nutrition, we can talk gear, we can talk support crew, all those key things to make sure that you're basically going to have a fun weekend, because that's really what it's all about.
Oh, that's a great call, Richard. That's a great call. Like, we do lots of so many people here have never done this actually as a race. We do it in parts as training and all those things. But if you haven't done it at a race and you don't actually know what it's going to look like, that's a super good call. Talking to someone, especially like you, who's been around the block once or too many times, looking at the grey hairs in your head there, mate, certainly seasoned at this, but just to get that inside word of how to lay out the race day, and how to deal with the hyper excitement, I suppose, that comes with being on the start line and all those other athletes around you, and how to control that. And I guess on the other hand as well, the nerves that come, and a lot of people wake up on the morning, because it's an early start, whether you're 1 day or 2 day, and it's an early start. And a lot of people often wake up not feeling well, but a lot of the time it's just nerves. They can't eat, or they just feel the anxiousness and all those sort of things. So because of the unknown often is what it is. So yeah, definitely take that time, reach out to Rich, talk it through, and just come up with a plan. And then again, when we should talk about this, Rich, and we probably will in the next episode before we actually head across the coast. But you will be there. I'm hoping I will be there on the Thursday as well. I'm just trying to work all that out at this stage. But
as long as you're on the Friday.
Hey? As long as I'm there on Friday. We'll be there for Friday. Don't panic. We'll be there Thursday. I've just got to work out how I'm going to get myself there at what time this time. Anyway, but come and see us at the Team CP NZ tent inside the registration area. And it's not too late to come and have a chat then, and just try and get rid of some of those nerves and talk about some experiences or things that might just help ease it as well. Please come say hi.
100%. Absolutely come and say hi. And I think with that race plan chat that I had, I think it's really useful to get something written down so it's out of your head. And as part of that race plan, it's not just the race plan, it's the pre-race plan. What time are you going to get out of bed? What time are you going to leave the motel? What time are you going to have breakfast? What time are you going to put your shoes on? How long is that going to take, etc.? What about a warm-up? So then you can get to the start line, and you just need to do A, B, C, D, E, and not have to kind of negotiate or think about that, or get to there far too early, or stressed and pushed for time at the end. So all those key things are part of it as well. So write it down, get it out of your head, and you can look at it over it on breakfast while you're eating breakfast, and then you can walk forward to the challenge, which is what it's all about.
Beautiful. Right. For episode 5, we've had a good preamble here to start with, Rich.
Yes. So today, let's rip into it. Today, we're honoured to have Gemma McCaw join us. To all those New Zealanders out there, she'll need no introduction at all. But for those listening from abroad, she is a 3-time Olympian, Black Sticks hockey legend, playing over 250 games for her country, and her other half is none other than Richie McCaw. Gemma is a mother of 3 little girls and an advocate for women's wellbeing, and a champion for empowering women to adventure outdoors with her Ladies Who Adventure group. Thank you so much for joining us, Gemma. It's great to have you on board the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Richard, for having me. It's been a wee while since you took me for my first coaching session a few years ago. So, yeah, great to be back on your podcast and, share what I've been up to.
Our podcast is up to a bit beyond 200 now, and you were podcast number 1 that we had on way back in the day. So it's pretty funny. So pretty fun to have you back on today.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So do you want to kick off, Gemma, just by, Coast to Coast is not new to you. You've done it a number of times before. Do you want to give us a quick bit of background around the Coast to Coast and I guess what it means to you?
Yeah, I guess I first started, my intro was actually on my honeymoon. We thought that would be a great trip for us to go and do the mountain run back in 2017. So kind of got a taste for it then. And obviously Rich has done it a number of times. And meanwhile, I was having 3 babies during that time. So yeah, this time it's about going through with Shaz in the 2 Day Tandem. And yeah, Coast to Coast is just an absolute iconic race. You know, it's a real, it makes you feel really proud to be a New Zealander. I love seeing, often people start by watching or supporting on the sidelines, and then a couple of years later, you see these people get inspired and compete. And I guess for me, I've just been waiting. I've always said my time will come. I've got young children. And this year, you know, the opportunity came up and I took it with both hands. And yeah, the Kathmandu Coast to Coast is just an incredible race. There's people from all walks of life, and yeah, I just love that finish line. I love everything about the event. It's a slick event, and it also tests you mentally and physically as well. So yeah, just a privilege to line up next year.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So you just mentioned there that you've teamed up with Shaz Dagg, who we've actually already had a chat to on this podcast as well. So have you got, like, obviously with 3 little kids and obviously living in Wanaka and the Goat Pass in 6 hours drive away, something like that, have you guys managed to coordinate diaries to actually catch up for an adventure?
Yeah. So we've done a couple of training missions. We've also had to get our grade 2, obviously with Shaz and her arm. We've had to go through that gorge together, you know, and really work as a team. So that was a whole new experience. Went through with Top Sport to get our grade 2 together. We're doing a final pedal coming up in December as well. So, and then we've been through Goat Pass together, and then another training weekend. So yeah, I feel a bit sorry for Shaz having to kind of coordinate, because I've got tiny windows, you know, when Rich can be at home with the kids and I travel up, and I try and put it in with some of my work that I do with Kathmandu, which is based in Christchurch, which is amazing. But yeah, we just have to maximize those training missions we get together, and the rest of it we do in our hometowns, and then we just keep in touch. But yeah, it's really nice to be able to train together. Hoping for another couple more missions over summer, and then the big day.
Cool. So how did that go? Shaz is good for a bit of banter. How did you find sort of getting out into the hills with her, and how did the paddling coordination go?
Yeah, I guess Shaz, I just really admire her energy and attitude. And when I first met her, and she kind of suggested we were doing a Q&A on a panel, guest speaking, and yeah, when the idea came about, it was really inspiring to see, you know, what she's done since her accident and getting out there. And so, yeah, the next step was getting together. And like I say, going down the river, and the Waimak was pretty high when we went down, but she's really tough. I'm obviously in charge of steering in the front, so that was all new, because Rich usually takes charge of things like that when we've done adventure racing and that. So yeah, it's incredible, because I honestly, when I'm paddling, it doesn't feel like she's just paddling with one arm. Do you know what I mean? So I was just blown away how tough she was. She never lets on how much pain she's in. She gets nerve pain. And we just go together, and she's really good at going, you know, because what I tended to do in my first paddle, getting used to it, was, you know, when the rapids get big, you stop paddling, and she'd be like, paddle, paddle, paddle. So I had to kind of remember. So yeah, we worked together well as a team, but definitely in that gorge, you know, there's a few hairy moments, because obviously if we tip out, we've got to get ourselves out of the spray skirt, get the boat to the side. Shaz's paddle is attached, you know, so she has to maneuver that. And I just felt, emotionally responsible to get, you know, us all over to the side. But Shaz was amazing. She's tough. She can do it. But I wasn't prepared for all those other little things. And then, you know, I sit on the boat and help her put her spray skirt back on. So every time we exit, you know, is going to be kind of physically draining. So we try to take some good lines, you know, and on the day, that's what we'll try and do. But you never know, things get thrown at you, and that's the beauty of this race, you know, things come up. But we did manage to get down the gorge a couple of weeks ago, and like I say, in a couple of weeks we're going back down. So I think with every paddle you gain confidence, you know, and working together. But I'm just really excited that I've got a teammate that doesn't complain, gets on with it, and is really positive, because that's what you want when you're sitting in the boat for 5 hours together.
Not that Rich complained as a teammate. He wouldn't complain, would he?
No, he doesn't. But the last time we did the Kaikoura 48-hour race, we were paddling down the Clarence, and I was thinking to myself, and I actually said it to him, I said, the only thing that would be worse than right at this moment is tipping out. And anyway, we hit a rapid, and I'll blame him, I shouldn't really, because it takes two to tango, but kind of got it wrong and overcorrected, and then so our pack raft flipped up and I got smashed against the rocks and completely wet, saturated, and we had to pull over and I lost my paddle, so our teammates had to pick that up, and I was sitting there, we had to get the emergency blanket out, and I think I didn't talk to him for a good couple of hours, but and true to his form, he said, we're just going to get you back in some warm clothes and paddle to the next transition and we'll be okay. But I was ready at that point. We were kind of 30-ish hours in. But no, he's pretty good. But that was the one time when I was paddling with him, and we've been in a pack raft since, but bit easier with Shaz.
It's a good story though. It's real life, isn't it? And just a little bit of quiet time, just a bit of a me time, and then I'll be back here again. Well done. That's awesome. And that's part of it, isn't it? That's part of these adventures. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how you're going to cope with it. But it makes one heck of a good story when you figure it out and actually do get to the finish line in the end.
Yeah, and I think it's all about, you never know on the day, how you're going to feel and what challenges present themselves. Like for me, the paddling, I hadn't thought too much about it, but once you're in there and you're on the whole time, do you know what I mean? Because you're working really hard. And I think, it's easy to watch from a spectator point of view, and, you see these really nice shots of Goat Pass, but actually when you're out there and you have to earn every step. And I think with the rocks and the slipping, and we went up when the rivers were quite high, and it really makes you appreciate and understand that no adventure is ever the same, and you've just got to be prepared. And I think that's the mindset going in. Do you know what I mean? That anything can happen on the day, even the top elite guys and girls, things come up, and it's your ability to deal with the pressure or handle the moment or the setbacks that really counts.
Yes. And it is that bit, like you're talking about paddling and the gorge, top of the gorge is fun. Like the braids, that top section is good, but the bit that really gets me is towards the back end of the gorge, and you've just had enough. You just can't, just get this over. Get me out of here. Like, when is this ever going to end? How do you get through that stuff? Like, obviously you talked about your adventure race as well, and you're 30 hours in and you've still got plenty to go. Aside from having a bit of a spill and getting cold, how do you kind of keep yourself going when you really just don't want to be there anymore?
Yeah, I guess you just break it down into small steps. That's what I've always done, whether it's the next 5 minutes or the next tree ahead, because when you think of it, 5 hours in the kayak, you go, oh my gosh, this is going on forever. But just kind of getting to the next point, talking to the people around you. If you've got teammates, that's what it's kind of for. And the other thing is just staying on top of nutrition. I find, you've got to be eating and drinking the whole time, because it's easy. It's a lot harder to not eat, when you're paddling, and stopping or just pausing to have a gel, because often when you're fading mentally, you actually need food. And one thing that I've learnt is staying on top, every 40 minutes to an hour, getting something in has really helped me over time. And also just, I guess in your mind, just getting to that next point and slowly ticking it off. As soon as you're in your own head going, I hate this, I want to get out, there's only, that doesn't get the job done. And, I remember someone saying, you complete or you complain, and only one gets the job done. So you've just got to complete it. You've got to keep going and know it will get better, in those dark moments. But I think, when you're in a team, that's the benefit of the team. People often don't have those moments all together. But you kind of start to understand your teammate and you understand yourself. And for me, I just break it down. I make sure I'm eating and drinking, and something my mum used to say, this too shall pass. So, just keep going. It's amazing once you've had food and you've got through a tricky section, it does get better. And the relief when you get out of your boat, and onto the bike or off your bike and onto your feet, it just makes you so grateful, when you're out there, when you change disciplines. And I think that's the benefit of these transitions as well.
That relief of the transition and the thank goodness that's over. Sometimes I only find it lasts for 10 minutes, but it's better than staying in that kayak anyway, isn't it? In terms of, let's change tact a little bit. You've got a adventure crew that you get out and do all sorts of different things within the hills. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so Ladies Who Venture was born out of the idea of getting women into the outdoors and inspiring into the outdoors. And it really started with Jess Baker and I, we wanted to get out ourselves, if I'm completely honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you have young children, it is really hard. You know, suddenly, you know, obviously I had a long time in sport, and then, you know, it's hard just to get to the letterbox, you know, or going for a walk is a big thing because you've got this brand new beautiful baby, and you're trying to feed it, and, you know, you're not sure, you've got to have a little bit of wake time and get them down, and it just takes a little bit to get back into exercise. And I feel lucky that, you know, you go and see a pelvic floor physio and you do all those small steps, but as the babies grow, you know, and get bigger, the windows of wake time where you might be able to sneak out for a walk or a run get slightly bigger. And, you know, I was obviously really lucky with Rich and my mum and family that would come in, and I'd just say, I just need 20 minutes or half an hour, you know, in those early stages, because just the mental aspect and how good you feel after exercise. And I've loved that, you know, my whole career. Even when I don't feel like doing it, I know how good I'll feel after. So my rule is just 20 minutes. You can always turn back, but often you don't. And, you know, in those early, you know, around 6 months old, when I had a 6-month-old, I'd just run around the block, you know, 3Ks, and something's better than nothing in those points. And so Jess and I, we understood how hard it is to balance being a mum and getting out for these long missions, because it's just, you know, like when you're breastfeeding and, you know, your baby doesn't take a bottle. So the first trip kind of came about when my middle, I was just weaning her at about 13 months, and I sent a group message to a couple of friends and said, you know, is anyone keen to do Paparoa? And they came back, yep. So we went in June. So you can imagine we were kind of knee deep in snow, but it was our only window, and we got to go away for the weekend, and there was 6 of us, and, you know, it was the most amazing. It was freezing cold and it hailed and it was terrible weather, but we got through that, and, you know, our cup was just so filled, and we just felt amazing, and that we'd achieved something. So the idea started with just, you know, a few ladies who were venturing like that, and we couldn't do that all the time. We knew it wasn't realistic, but Jess and I started just doing the odd weekend here and there when we could throughout the year, a couple of times a year. And then a few people started asking us, oh, we've seen you guys up in the hills, can you do it? And we thought, actually, here's an opportunity to get women and provide them the training, you know, the safety and detail that you need, and an excuse, you know, or permission to get out there and train for something. And so we started choosing the great walks, and we would run them in a day. So it was kind of a bit of a niche market, because you had to have some fitness to obviously build to that. But this year we introduced a hike to hut. So we took, you know, a group of women and we walked up to a hut, and then you get there and you totally relax and switch off. We like to try and make platters and cook them dinner so that they don't have to do one more thing, which is very odd for women to sit back and not be helping. A lot of them wanted to help, but it was the training leading up. Do you know what I mean? You had to train for it. So you had that 10-week lead in, and then the actual weekend, and it was just connecting like-minded women. And really the magic was them, you know, and my greatest joy isn't seeing myself, you know, tick off lots of things, seeing the joy in others and seeing them achieve things that, you know, they didn't think was possible. And I still get, you know, a little bit teary when I think of some of these women, you know, some incredible stories of, you know, some have 4 kids and they've got out there and it's been their first time away, and, you know, just the magic that the outdoors brings, and the magic of connection. You don't have cell phones. I mean, you know, you have flight mode on and you can take photos and things like that, but you sit around and you actually talk, and there's something about walking side by side, you know, with someone in nature that you connect really strongly. So Jess and I just feel it's a absolute privilege to do what we do, and you know, we'd love to do more, but it's balancing our own family. You know, we can't go away every weekend, but we've ticked off 4 great walks and 2 hike to huts in the last couple of years, and it's just been a privilege. And, you know, Jess is amazing with the navigation and the health and safety and all those things. And, you know, we just like to make an experience where it takes the mental load off. Oh, what do I need to pack? You know, so we send them a flat lay of this is what you'll need. And we have a beautiful nutritionist, Emily Hope, who comes on and does a Zoom session in the lead up. So we know how to fuel our bodies. So you're feeling good. And it's not just the weekend, it's the training, and then afterwards the memories, because I saw something the other day that said anyone can go out for a drink or on a weekend away, but to have that kind of type 1 or type 2 fun, those memories are with you for a lifetime. And I think my greatest memories, aside from my children and my family, have been those adventure races with friends, the 48-hour Kaikoura with Rich, did that a couple of times. These are ingrained in your memory, because you were so present and absorbing all the goodness that it has to offer. And we just want to inspire more women to get out there. And I'm really lucky that I work with Kathmandu, and they're on the same mission, to absolutely. We know that mothers are often the heartbeat of the family, and women and families are the glue.
Yes.
So the more that they can be outside feeling the benefits and feeling good for their family, that will have a ripple effect on the whole family's mental and physical health, and I like to say, with our kids, we like to say, show, don't tell. So let them see us get out there rather than say, you should be doing that and you should be doing that, So it's been, amazing for our girls. We obviously take them on a couple of overnight smaller hut missions, but it's been really amazing seeing these women and bringing the groups together.
Yeah, that's so good, isn't it? And one of the key things you're doing there, and that an event has, is it's got a date and an end date, and I've got a wee bit of pressure that I've actually got to do something. But you've created that within that group, because that's where we're going, and you're committing to that, and you're also committing that with a group of people as well, rather than I'm just going to do it by myself, which can easily get swept away in the busyness that is families and things. So well done for that. That's super.
Oh no, thank you. It's having the accountability and the support, and I think that's a big part of it, is that they know that they're supported, and that kind of psychological safety and trust within the group, that you will be supported. And like I say, Jess was a very good, and still is a sports physio, so she, with injuries and illness, we're thinking about the whole person. Do you know what I mean? And we often say, and it's something Flavio, who's in Christchurch as well, who does a lot of training, when he was talking to me about some of these 48-hour races, he said, Gem, you have 3 kids. I'm not going to give you a program and say on Monday you have to go up Mount Roy and on Tuesday. He said, this is the type of training, fit it around your family. And it just meant, it was still hard to fit it in, but it was easier because, sometimes your kids get sick, or something happens and you're up all night, or you get gastro and your husband's away. And you have to do what you have to do. But when you've got a line in the sand, you have to get out there. But we want our women to know that it is flexible around work, and if they have families and commitments, that one day, if you miss one day, it's not going to, be a deal breaker.
Yeah, good stuff. So Kathmandu have come on board with you to with your ladies adventure group, and obviously they're sort of involved with the coast to coast as well. Your role is involved in some product development. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's a very varied role, and I absolutely love it. So I've done a couple of things, taken a bunch of my best friends on a hike overnight, got them in the gear. So we've tested the gear. I've taken, a whole different range of gear up in kind of some hardcore conditions. And I'm giving them feedback on packs and gear. So I'm working closely with their team, which I love, and I am starting to understand the design process as well. And then some community-led events, which I love. We've got some things in the pipeline, kind of that run club connecting. And then obviously they're supporting the Kathmandu coast to coast. And we've just got, it feels like such a privilege to represent and work alongside a brand like that. We have the same values. It feels easy, because they're on board, they understand. We're looking at reducing barriers for women, and sometimes things like clothing, we might not think about it, but if women aren't feeling confident and empowered to get out there, so we want to reduce those barriers. We know time and families, but we're saying to people, you just have to start small as well. So, find your local hill, just start somewhere. And it's just been, like I say, this is I've been with them for a year so far. And yeah, it's just really exciting. And I just think their gear is just getting better and better and better. And their testing, protocols are really robust. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun because I get to go and test it in different conditions as well.
Yeah, that's cool, isn't it? It's good to hear like that in terms of the product development that's going on. That and being a New Zealand-based company, as you say, like it's happening in Christchurch. You're talking to the designers. It's not someone in France that you're having to try and work with. So that's super cool. What's your favourite piece of Kathmandu kit that you're going to use on the coast to coast? Or maybe to broaden that question, what's your favourite piece of Kathmandu kit that's sort of always out there with you?
Yeah, just my seam sealed waterproof jacket. They've brought out the coolest colors. Like I've been wearing a purple one and a yellow kind of zing color, but yeah, seam sealed waterproof jacket. It's the type of jacket that you can wear, like when it's still warm, but you can wear that layer if it's raining, because I find, it's important when you're in the outdoors that you are layered up. Do you know what I mean? With your kind of merino and things like that. But yeah, these waterproof jackets, they've just got so much stretch. Do you know what I mean? So I comfortably can put it on, and especially when it's windy, if you're up along the tops of some places, it's like my go-to piece. If I get a little bit cold, you get up on the ridge, chuck it on. If there's a little bit of rain, you put it on. In the paddle, do you know what I mean? You can adjust and pull the straps kind of tight around your wrist. So I know it's just a rain jacket, but it's honestly that the feel and the fit, the latest ones I've brought out is amazing. So it would be that's my go-to, and it's the piece we always say to our women, pack waterproof pants and a jacket, and you kind of think I'll never need it. But most of our adventures this year, bar Queen Charlotte, we wore waterproof pants as well. So having those, that compulsory gear becomes really important. And the weather in New Zealand is so changeable, and we need to respect that. And I think, always having your thermals and things like that. But yeah, I would say that would be my number one piece.
It feels like you're almost looking forward to a bit of rain, just so you get your jacket out. Would it be fair?
Yeah. Any excuse. But yeah, like all the, the other layers are amazing too. The bike shorts, which I run in, are incredible as well. And yeah, like I say, that the puffer jackets are classic. I would have said puffer jacket because we know everyone has to have a Kathmandu puffer, but they're really nice. And also if you're doing overnights, really light, that you can pull out and put on. And to be honest, a couple of these adventure races I've worn, especially in Kaikoura in April, I wore the puffer jacket the whole time, and the rain jacket. Even though you're moving the whole time, I really feel the cold. So I'm loving that their products keep me warm, because that's one of the things when you're out there, if you get cold, you use a lot of energy as you're shivering. And I've found myself that now all those layers just mean I stop straight away, get warm, and then carry on. In the past, I would have just kind of like battled through, but now make sure stop, put a layer on, or take a layer off, if you're too hot as well, and then have something to eat.
Yeah, good job. Final question. Like you've got a background in elite sport, obviously, and as a result of that, became a pro at dealing with pressure and nerves. For those doing their first coast to coast, or those people turning up to their the ladies adventure group for the first time, how can people? Is there any advice you would give for people to manage nerves so it doesn't actually derail your experience? Because we want to turn and run sometimes, don't we? But we're not allowed to the night before. Like, why did I do this? Why did I sign up for this kind of thing? And the last thing you want to do is turn up. But how can you? Any advice to help manage the pressure and expectations that go with turning up to some of these things?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think pressure and stress don't ever go away. You've just, like you say, you've got to learn how to manage it. The first thing I probably think about is your preparation. You know what I mean? So like thinking about before the actual weekend or the coast to coast or whatever you have coming up, have I got all my gear sorted? So you're not like, I find it's quite stressful if the day before you're running around trying to do gear and, what am I going to eat? I haven't been to the supermarket. So starting preparation, I feel, means that you've got you can control the controllables. Do you know what I mean? And focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. So we can't control the weather, other competitors, any of that, but we can get our gear sorted. We know our food. We've trained with the nutrition. We may get sick, injury or illness. It happens. Again, don't focus on it, just focus on what you can do. And then I guess leading up to the day, I'm big on sleep. I say that as a mother of 3 that hasn't had a lot lately, but don't try anything new, in the lead up, but trying to get that recovery and that sleep and that nutrition in, because that's a big load of, what an event means. And then on the day and the lead up to it, it sounds really simple, but breathing, and just really stepping back, coming back to your why, why did you sign up for this? And you will go through patches going, oh my gosh, what have I done? Even I at times am like, what did I do saying yes to this? But you will move through that. And really, you just need to get yourself to the start line. Do you know what I mean? And then everything else, the amazing event, Kathmandu Coast to Coast, iconic. You'll look back and it'll be one of the best things you've ever done in your life. So get excited, So yeah, one of the things before going out, onto a hockey field at the Olympics and, is just trying to just sit with how you're feeling. And yeah, those deep breaths, which will shift you back, from sympathetic to parasympathetic. And even when you're out there, I find myself when I'm struggling and really getting, kind of worked up, I just have to take myself, and even 30 seconds or a minute of those deep breaths really help shift your perspective. And, one of my mindset tools I often use is you tell yourself, I get to do this. Often we say, I have to do this, but I get to do this. And it becomes a real privilege. And I think you walk towards it with some excitement. So in summary, preparation, look after yourself, and then get excited and remember your why.
Good stuff. That's fantastic advice. And as a result of those things, you can do each little bit step by step and really soak up the experience and have an awesome day out. And you guys are going to have an awesome day out, both you and Shaz. And I do look forward to giving out a high five or two as I see you out on course come summer 2026.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's such a privilege, and I feel so lucky. I mean, Shaz to do that whole race, she's pretty inspirational, and I just feel lucky. Like, there's so many people out there with their own story, and I'm just constantly inspired, by what people can do when you set your mind to it. And I think one of Shaz's catch cries is, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And if you're out there sitting there thinking, I'd love to do an event one day, you can do it. You are capable. We're more capable than we ever think. And I would just say, sign up and then sort out a plan after. So if you're sitting there thinking you want to do something, the best thing, as you said, Richard, is a line in the sand, get your entry in, and then figure out a plan of how to get there. But so many Kiwis do this race. And I just think, it's such a privilege to be doing it. And I think so many others hopefully are inspired by Shaz and what she can do together, and especially women out there giving it a go. And whether you're an elite racer or it's your first time, just credit to all the competitors out there, because as we know, it's not just 1 or 2 days, it's all the training and balancing that you don't see as well. So just really excited.
Good stuff. Well done, Gemma. Hey, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us, and all the best with your balancing and juggling over the next few months. And we'll look forward to seeing you in Greymouth in February.
Cool. Thanks so much, Richard. Have a lovely day. Take care. Thank you.
Oh, well, that's a good combination, isn't it, Gemma and Shaz there. Gemma's got to be, as a black stick and all those times with that team environment around her, more than ever is she going to be a crucial piece to this team. Stuff in the boat with the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, Shaz is super strong and will not give up. But the challenge is the fact that she's attached to her paddle because of her prosthesis that she wears. So it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a real challenge to get them both through as a team to get to the finish line. So all the best with training, and looking forward to hearing how their adventure goes as part of the Kathmandu Coast to Coast.
Yeah, and she sums it up there too. Exactly why we're there every year, Richard, for the people, for the environment, for what Coast to Coast is, and the buzz and the vibe and everything that you get from it, the achievements that are happening all around you. There's a new achievement every 10 seconds at the finish line at Brighton when somebody comes across the line. It's I can't wait to get back to that bullpen. At the end of the race.
And it's something that we often doubt, isn't it? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing this again for? Especially for a few of us that have been around a few times. But you can't not either. Like, it's just such a uplifting weekend, and there's so many enthusiastic people there. Well, the whole environment is that want each other to do well and succeed. So and there's always stories of people battling away but making it to the finish line, and everybody's got a story to tell. So we've got in our sights now, haven't we?
We have indeed. Now, just quickly before we go to Conrad,
yes.
we've still got here in Christchurch with Team CPNZ, of course, our cycle groups that are going, our Wednesday night roadies that we've been really focusing on some coast to coast stuff this year and some bunch riding, and so that's coming back next Wednesday, the 14th, I want to say, is it?
Yeah, that's correct. So if you're coming from out of town, we've got 4 weeks to coast. So ideally, you're going to make it to all of them, and you're going to build skills across that time and build confidence and know what you're doing and be able to get a feel for riding in a bunch. But if you can only make it to one of our groups or one of your local groups, make sure you take that time to do that, because again, it's another tick in the box so you've got the skills to stand on the start line and go and have a good day and make sure everybody else does and everybody make it to the finish line safely.
And we're probably getting near that time now in the next couple of weeks that you're right. People are starting to arrive. Some overseas people are starting to arrive, or some out of towners, because people do come for sort of that week or two lead up as they start to gather and get here and things or whatever. So please do come and come and join in if you're in town on a Wednesday night, Princess Margaret Hospital. Just look that up on the old Google Maps at 6 p.m. Come and join us.
Yeah, book on our website so we know you're coming, and then we've got your name and emergency contact details and things. But yeah, come and get involved. So our last one is Wednesday, the 4th of February. The Wednesday just before the Coast to Coast, the 11th, we will be in Greymouth, or I will be. You'll be still trying to figure out how to get there, hopefully. so 4 weeks as of prior to race day to get to that. The other thing, actually, we've also got 1 or 2 spots available for our support crew. So if you are struggling or your support team has last minute not able to make it for whatever reason, or the family with the kids, you're deciding that actually probably that's not a good idea to make sure you stay married, is feel free to drop us a line and we'll see what we can do around supporting you to make sure that you have an awesome experience to get from the West Coast to the East Coast in mid-February.
And further to that, we do actually have a couple of spots available. If you actually wanted to come and be a support crew person and come for the Team CPNZ circus through the Coast to Coast weekend and come and hang out with us and help some other athletes get through their journey, reach out as well, because we can take another couple of support crew people with us.
And that's a great way to get to know the event. If you're thinking of it for next year, but I don't know anybody doing it this year, but I'd really like to be involved, is come and join our crew and be a part of our, as you say, traveling circus, because it's definitely that. But the vibes and the fun and everything that goes with it, supporting others, achieving their goals.
There's always some good chat. Now, Conrad, let's cut to Conrad and see if we can't get some numbers on what we should be doing with our body, really, I suppose, shouldn't we?
That's right. Fueling our body, making it to the finish line.
Cool.
Okay, welcome Conrad Goodhew to the show. Conrad is a dietitian. He works with all sorts of different athletes, and today we're talking endurance sports specifically, and our 3 key things we're trying to manage in terms of that endurance activity is being hydration, number 1, carbohydrate intake, number 2, and sodium intake or salt intake, number 3. So welcome, Conrad. Great to be able to catch up with you and have a bit of a chat and share some ideas around nutrition.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Yeah, nice work. So talk to me about, I guess, the management of those three things, would you say that hydration is the most important thing?
Well, I guess like anything in nutrition, this whole balance, discussion topic is around about how do we balance almost those three and how do we optimize that. I guess carbs sort of sits in sort of own realm in terms of fuel, but also carbohydrates actually really important for hydration as well, or retaining water from that perspective, as well as sodium. We can sort of dive into that a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah. So just talking about that, by sodium, we're talking about, by talking salt, is sodium the key and the most important thing? Because obviously we've got potassium, we've got magnesium, other elements as well. Do they matter? Or is it more just we need to focus on the sodium? If we do that, we're probably going to tick most of those boxes.
Yeah, I think if we look at it from an electrolyte perspective, sodium is the most important one. So salt or table salt is sodium chloride, which everybody just knows that as, what's in the cupboard, what you add to your potatoes, etc. Go back to the roast potatoes on the coast. But the key thing that we're looking at in terms of electrolytes, yes, the other ones are important, but in terms of what we lose most in sweat, especially during like ultra distances, is sodium. So that is the most important one we need to get in. But if we are using, I guess, just generic electrolytes or food and getting, food options, we're going to get some of that other stuff in anyway. But in terms of optimizing targets or specifically trying to reduce the risk of what we call hyponatremia, which is low blood sodium, sodium is the most important thing. And we can see that quite clearly when we're reading labels, because it's a requirement in terms of New Zealand policy. So it is actually quite easy to track.
Okay, nice. So I want to go through some guidelines today. So as a result of listening to our chat, to go, okay, well, that's what I need to be kind of aiming for. Obviously, this is going to be very individualized, and it's very, environment plays a big part of this as well, but it'd be good to get a bit of a discussion around each of these in regards to a few takeaways for people when they're lining up for their event. So let's start off with hydration. What should we be thinking about? What are some maximums and minimums, and maybe some guidelines for people to take away?
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, it's highly individual and everybody's got different sweat rates. The environment's going to play a part. But what I also see probably more when I work with clients and when we're tracking hydration is actually just because it's cold doesn't mean you're not sweating. So that's probably a really important thing to recognize, because you're normally layered up more. So we kind of see this sort of average, I guess, sweat rate, and then that once you hit sort of that 25-ish degree, that's when it starts to really escalate from there. But that's highly variable to each individual. Probably the number one thing is like you do need fluid, but that would be dictated by a number of things. Just because it's cold doesn't mean you shouldn't be drinking. That's probably the first thing. But how do we know those numbers? And it's really simple. You could literally just search up how to measure your sweat rate, and they'll jump online. You get your weight before you do any exercise, and you get your weight after any exercise. Now, you want to make sure you don't basically think of those as two time points. You don't want to go toilet in between those, because it'll skew your results. And then what you do is you take your duration, the intensity, the heat into sort of into factors here, as well as what you consume. So if you look at the sweat rates online, you determine what your weight changes, then how much you took in would give you your total sweat loss, and you divide that by your time, and it'll give you the sweat rate per hour. So for people on the lower end, sometimes in sort of colder climates, lower end, we'll be looking at sort of 250 mils. Some high heavy sweaters, you'd be sort of 500 mils on the colder part. Then when we get up to get a bit warmer, like that 25, sort of 30 degrees, and then it starts to really escalate from there. Where I've had some athletes that are up around sort of 1.5 liters an hour. Which is a lot. So this is where it's really important. You've got to understand what your needs are by simple stuff like getting your weight before and after training. And I think I've mentioned previously as well on another podcast is the first hour we often sweat more, and then so you'll be looking at sort of like make any exercise over that hour and a half plus is where we want to really get or nail our sort of losses for that time as well. So to summarize all of that, what we want to do is if you just jump on Google, get your start to look at your weight before and after training, determine what your hydrations or your sweat rate would be per hour. It's a really good place to start to know, okay, how much do we need to take in, because then we start to build in sodium and carbohydrates from there as well.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so weight before, take away your weight after, add in any fluid you drank beforehand, add that into the calculation on top of it, and then you're going to become a difference. Ideally, there'll be no difference, because obviously you're taking your weigh the same before and after, and therefore you're managing that sweat rate is what we're after, isn't it?
Not necessarily, and that's probably a really good question. We definitely don't want to come in heavy. So we don't want to be gaining weight necessarily, because you might be overhydrating. But what I like to look for, if we're looking for optimum, I'm looking at around about a 1% body weight loss. Anything more than 2%, you're getting into the reduction in performance, and probably some other things going on like cramp, etc. But the sweet spot is you should see a weight loss, but we probably don't want to go anything more than that 2%. Of your body weight to start off with as a sweet spot. So about around about that 1% is quite ideal to keep it around.
So grab the digital scales out, jump on before, tell yourself down, jump on afterwards, and then do that a few times in different environments, so you get a bit of a feel for how much you need to be consuming in different environments. Yeah,
and if you're real nifty with Excel, you can create some beautiful, if you're visually, I guess that's way inclined, you can actually just crunch some numbers. If you build it out, you can actually get a really nice graph, which can go, okay, you sort of see your trends or your flows over a long period of time. But very rarely do I get to that point with my athletes, but it's actually, there's an option there for those that are sort of numbers driven or quite tech savvy.
Yeah, good. And hydration is the most important thing, especially early on in your event. So up to an hour, that's the first thing that's going to slow you down. Would you agree with that? Is that correct in saying?
Yeah. Yes. I think probably, I guess, up to an hour. Did you say that might?
To about an hour or so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, what you want to always do is like when it comes to anything, whether it be hydrating, refueling, replenishing sodium, you got to give yourself around about sort of a 20 to 30 minute mark of when things are taken into your mouth to when it's actually available for your body. So if you're thinking, right, I might start to bonk in an hour, well, half of an hour prior to that is probably the latest time that you want to be having your first option, if that makes sense. So it's always starting earlier if that's where you're going. So it's always back to absorption and how do we get that in and available.
Good. Okay, nice. Okay, so hydration. What about carbohydrate intake? What are some guidelines about how much we should be taking there? Like over the last few years, things have just ramped up and up and up in terms of, you hear people taking like 150 grams of carbohydrates per hour, which is crazy. If you've ever had a try at that, through to used to be, can we do 30 to 40 sort of thing? So where are we at now? Well, obviously it's very individual, depends on your event that you're doing as well. What are some things we could be thinking about, and what should people be targeting in terms of carbohydrate intake?
Again, it depends.
But
it's really interesting. So those higher ends, there is actually some really good evidence around being higher tolerance and for that for performance outcomes. What I want to start off with in terms of, regardless of what your target numbers are, train high. It's better off training high carbohydrates and racing slightly less than what it is training low than trying to race high. That doesn't work because your body isn't used to it. So first thing, whatever the numbers are, I kind of work off a sort of a 10 to 20% less what people train at, if they are getting into those higher points as well. But if we're looking at sort of general rule of thumb, there's been some discussions around, 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, that sort of stuff as well. But there are athletes that could tolerate much higher than that. So it really comes down to what sort of gut issues you're having and why we want to train high, because they'll teach that. But my general starting point for a lot of athletes will be, okay, what's your tolerability like? But you'd be, okay, from an hour to 2 hours, you'd be about sort of 30 to 60 grams. And when you go from 2 hours plus, or even 90 minutes plus, we'll be looking at that sort of the 60 to 90. If you can get higher than that, and I've got some athletes that can train quite comfortably straight off the bat at 120, we start to try to sort of push that boundary a little bit and see where their sort of tolerable load is. And the symptoms that you get from having too many carbs is normally gastro issues. So normally you get loose bowels, that sort of thing as well. So getting into that, dial it right back.
Real crampy sort of stomach as well during, like, is it?
Yeah, so I think if you're getting the sort of stomach, so we got upper gastro issues and lower gastro issues. Lower gastro issues is poor absorption. Upper is probably too stodgy. So either it's like too fibrous, too much protein, too food based. So let's say you might be able to tolerate 60 grams of carbs from food, and you might pump up that other 60 grams through fluid carbs or things like gels and that as well. So whatever that looks like for you in terms of upper GI, so stomach, is when we sort of eat something and there's sort of the next 5 or 10 minutes it sits real light, warm, getting reflux. That's probably sitting in your stomach a little bit more, but that's definitely a more complex discussion around how you manage that as well. Those are sort of the numbers. So start to go hour to sort of 2 hours-ish, about sort of 30 to 60, 90 minutes plus, you can start to go 60 to 90. And then if you can push a little bit higher, so be it. But like I said, always in training, train higher than what you want to race at. People go, oh, I'm only doing a 2 hour zone 2 bike. I don't need a fuel during this. I'm like, hang on, this is a great time to really challenge the carb intake and train your gut while the gut isn't under pressure. So then you can actually race a little bit higher as well, because that's normal now.
Yeah, so that simulation session is what it's about, isn't it? Actually, how am I going to do it? Actually, let's dial it in. What's the actual food options and what can I cope with here?
And that's what it's done.
And individualizing that as well. So carbohydrate, hydration, and what about salt intake? What are some guidelines, upper and lower, that we should be thinking about in regards to sodium intake? I should talk about.
Yeah, so we're starting to get this really long trend of people that don't have enough salt and people that probably don't need that much salt or sodium in particular, especially with these new drinks and stuff that are coming out that are all like, oh, you should be having 1,000 milligrams of sodium. And it's getting to the point that it's actually probably getting a little bit beyond the perfect, or what the diet science actually says. So rather than working off per hour when it comes to sodium, we actually want to work off per litre of fluid that you consume. So if you're consuming, if your sweat rates are sort of like 700 mils per hour, you'd work off whatever salt concentration is within that, as well as what you'd be getting from carbs as well. So I think the easy way to look at it is any fluid that you take in, we've got to get some sodium with that. And the numbers that we're seeing in the evidence is around about that sort of 450, and we can probably push that up to 650. The reason why people feel better when they have those 1,000 milligram, I guess, options or plus is normally because what that does is it stimulates thirst. So because it's really salty, you got that really salty taste in your mouth, your body or brain goes, I need to drink more. So then you actually consume more fluid. In terms of like what the perfect number is, in terms of performance, it's still that sort of 450, 650-ish per litre, which is quite fascinating. And some more recent evidence with Alan McCubbin, pretty sure I pronounced that right, from Monash University, who does a lot of study in this space.
Okay. Yeah, because it's interesting you talk about different products. Like when you look at certain gels on the market and you look at their, like, gels to me in the old days anyway used to be a concentrated sports drink. So you've got the water fluid taken out of it, but you've got carbohydrates and electrolytes in there, and then you just add water because you can't carry the water with you necessarily. So, but actually when you look at some labels, they've got obviously high carbohydrates, but sodium is very minimal. So I feel like sometimes people assume that there's sodium in there, but actually there's not. We need to look at the labels and see what's actually in this thing. And therefore maybe that's where we start supplementing with salt tablets and that sort of stuff to make sure we're in that right range.
Yeah, I've had athletes that have run, those little sachets you get in the hotels of the salt. Literally, they'll run with those and just take that in because all they want to do is drink water. It's their way. It's not probably the great way of managing it, but it is a way to do it. So at the end of the day, it's making sure that when you are buying any supplement, I guess any product, food as well, flip the label over. You go, okay, what carbohydrates am I going to get out of this? What sodium am I going to get out of this? And then you go, right, what do I need to top up with a supplement my food or supplement whatever the strategy is with these little extra things. So if we think races where, like just straight water is going to be mostly available, what things are practical for you to carry that's going to enable you to top that up. So if it's scooping a cup when you're running through a river, you've got a little packet of electrolyte tablets or, salt fizzes or whatever it may be, that you take those and you can have your water, because you know that that cup is 500 mils, and you know that, okay, I'm going to be looking at about 300 mils of sodium in those electrolytes. So it's just, that's the way it's really important. If you're looking to strategize, to go, am I actually adding in salt with the fluid that I'm taking in as well? Even if it's things like Coke, for example. Coke's relatively low sodium, so it's like making sure you're taking some sodium in with that Coke, with the Coke option there too, or any other fizzy drink if that's your way.
Yes, good. So managing those three things: hydration, carbohydrates, and salt intake. I really like the fact of managing salt intake per litre rather than per hour, because that's the thinking about how sweaty and how hot it is. So that helps us making sure we're not overdoing it either, just by blindly taking in more sodium.
Yeah, and some people go, oh, well, I need more sodium because, this sweat thing told me. I'm like, but what we know in the evidence is sodium sweat is highly dictated by your sodium intake. So if you consume a lot of sodium products, your sweat will then have a lot of sodium in it as well. So it can sometimes skew your needs and go, oh, actually I need more sodium, but that's often dictated by how much you've taken in your habitual diet, which we get more than enough of anyway as human beings too.
Yes. So how do we know if we need to take more or less?
Well, you could spend a lot of money on getting some sweat patches and doing that, but again, we don't use them in professional sport. So you think professional sport is where we would use it. It's kind of come and gone and thought that might be valuable, but there's no evidence to really nail the sodium concentrations unless we are like super elite and super dialed in and we want to get everything to the nth degree of 1%. But for most people that are probably doing the races that are going to be listening to this, I'm not going to be that group, so I wouldn't get too caught up in it. But if you feel like, the way I talk with my clients is like, okay, if you find that you get when you sweat, your cap goes a little bit white, you taste your sweat and it can taste a little bit salty, you might be a saltier sweater. That could be because your diet consists of more salt, which if you want to add in a little bit more and you feel that works for you, so be it. But don't think that because there's supplement discussions that are coming around, we need to be having 200 milligrams of sodium in our per litre because we are high salt sweaters, or it's going to help my cramp, or whatever this discussion may be as well. So I think that's a really important discussion to have. Hence why that 450, 650-ish is a really nice sweet spot to see where you're at. Some people may not need 450. They could be actually, in terms of hyponatremia, I think it's right down around 100 milligrams. Don't quote me on that, 100 milligrams per litre or something relatively low. So you don't actually need much to sort of stay healthy.
Yeah.
But if we're looking a little bit higher, it can actually help with the performance as well.
Yeah, good. Okay, so we're talking about performance and then just making sure you've got some sodium in your drink, and then that will mean that you'll not need to worry about that hyponatremia thing. As long as you're having something there, your body will be able to cope with that.
Yep, absolutely. And I reckon if you are out sort of doing races that there is minimal aid stations available, take some extra, I guess, options for those that probably haven't listened to this podcast either, because, a little pack of electrolytes are actually pretty easy to carry. And if you've got someone running across and look like they're not very well, give that to them, because that could be the difference between you actually saving their life or not, because that's a very high risk.
Yes, that's right. So just options. So carbohydrates, and obviously having those things available to mean that you're going to be able to have a good day and enjoy yourself out there. And as you mentioned, it's just a matter of practicing these things and keeping a little spreadsheet about what am I doing, what it went well, what didn't go quite so well, how did I manage my hydration, how did I feel as a result of that, and then you can turn up to race day being well prepared, knowing how you're actually going to do this thing.
Yeah, and ballpark's really critical here, because you'll be dependent on your day. You might go, I'm going to go try a race at 90 grams of carbs per hour, but you may cough up the boiled, or the boiled potatoes with salt and butter that you've got, and when you're running up Goats Pass, that's what happened to me. So it's like, how do you manage that? How do you manage on the go, especially for those bigger races too? So, having different options, 100%. don't think it's all going to be perfect, because it's not. So it's just being able to understand concepts and understand how you manage that in your training. So then when the race day comes, you can do the best as you can with what you got in front of you.
Excellent. Well done, Conrad. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your expertise as always. And keep up the great work.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Well, Rich, I don't want to sound like someone who tends to wing things far too much, but I feel like I need a calculator and some sort of science degree to work out what I'm going to use on race day now.
Well, it sounds like you've got lots of chances to practice that, haven't you? You're going to be in a hot Australian environment. Going to ride your bike lots, so you're going to give yourself an opportunity to just figure out how to have a play with it, which is what that nutrition's all about at this time of your build up. Yeah,
I think I need to take a set of scales with me, and we'll buy a cheap set of Briscoe. They got Briscoes in Australia.
Sure.
Scales over there and do a bit of on the go training camp testing, really, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I'd like to see some daily numbers if that's okay. Would that be all right?
Of what? Sorry.
I'll just wait before and after, and beers. Basically, those are the three things I want to
know. So you want to know pre-weight, kilometres ridden, beers consumed.
Yeah, well, pre-weight, post-weight, and beers consumed. I'm not even really worried about the riding amount, to be honest.
Well, in fact, we might even have to change that calculation, because it might even be gin. Because look, I hope there's not too many Australians listening, but you make shit beer in Australia.
Angus, can't believe you said that. Lucky this event is no longer sponsored by a beer company. But
That's right. That's right. Hey, no, great. That's good. I'm hoping that everybody's got something out of that. And like you say, we've got time to do those final tests, and just make sure you do drink and you do eat on the day. It's bloody easy. It's bloody easy to not. In fact, I tell you what, I was out riding in the weekend and with a mate who was probably riding 2 laps of the hill while I was grinding my way up there. Yeah. And once we got to the top of the big hill, we're on our gravel bikes and we were out in the middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden I was hungry, and because I'd forgotten, I actually thought that where we were heading was a whole lot closer than what it actually was, and forgot about another 200 or 300 meters of climbing that still needed to go in the middle of it. So I really hadn't been eating or doing anything. I thought, that's either one bottle for where we're going, and I'll just have a gel halfway up the hill, and then it's all downhill to the cafe after that. Got caught in the middle of it, and started to really bonk, and started to feed, throw some food in, but turned to old mate and said to Ollie, I said, you know what? It's actually, when you're hungry, it's just too late, isn't it? And we should all know well better than that the minute you actually feel hungry, the minute that you're going, oh man, I'm starving, it's well too late. And that's what it was for me in the weekend.
Yeah. And when you have that food, gel, whatever you're having, and you're like, oh gosh, that feels good. Actually, that probably means you're low as well, and you should have had something earlier, because we don't want those ups and downs. We want a constant energy there. But I mean, we all make those mistakes. It's a good reminder, isn't it, just to make that mistake again, and then you're less likely to make that on race day with a bit of luck.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before we wind up episode 5, a couple of things just to tick off there. Questions and more questions. If anybody's got any questions we got one to go before the big dance, is that correct?
I think so, yes, absolutely.
We've got one to go before the big dance. So if you've got a question, drop us a line, drop a comment in if you're watching this on Facebook or however you're watching or doing whatever you're doing. Send us a message, drop us a comment in the comments box or something if you got a question for the final episode. Our final episode, we've got plenty to cover by the sounds of it.
We'll chat about some support crew. We'll chat about we'll probably find an athlete to chat to again, or hear their story, and we'll no doubt talk to Glenn Curry, the race director, on some key last minute notifications of things we need to know as well. And there's chat that we might even talk to our Toby, our kayak, as well. See if he's been doing some pedaling. Hopefully
he doesn't know this, but he's essentially getting a few weeks warning right here, right now, that that after all of this banter that we've been giving him and not giving him a right or rebuttal, we better get him on here and and let him have his side of the story. But yes, so please do drop us a question if you need to. We'll try and cover off whatever we can before we get that last one in the bank, and we're all over in sunny Greymouth.
Absolutely. How good.
Well, it's been
sunnier than pretty much anywhere else in the country. So get over to sunny Greymouth to go and hang out.
Until then, my friend, thank you, everybody. Of course, a big thank you to Kathmandu and to the team at the Coast to Coast for entrusting Team CPNZ to host these podcasts, to give you the banter, give you the chat, bring the news to you. In the meantime, Rich, it's eastbound and down for us, my friend.
Well done. Good job. Go well, Angus. Right.